I think I've finally came out of that fight or flight response. I don't think I've ever been that calm and collected in my whole 37 years. And I think it's because I've mindfully had to body check myself and sort my stuff out to get through this because my children don't know.
Ah,
So I was having to be like, what is going to make me safe and well the now to get me through whatever I've got coming?
well, there is a lot of that, isn't there? And I think a lot of us, I don't think it's just people who are neurodivergent like us. I
No,
think there's a
no.
lot of it because I've recently learned that. I thought for many years, as you've mentioned just now, that a lot of my self-sabotage born out of my problems from childhood. And now I
Yes,
found out because of the autism thing that
yes.
it's a mixture of the two.
But listen, there's a very, very big correlation between neurodivergent people like ADHD and autism, where at one point you have got adverse experiences somewhere. There is quite a correlation because that is your basic like
Yes.
foundation of your established personality, your behaviour. So it's not connected. And it's only now that I've studied that at university, like when I did my masters and stuff, that you start seeing the link.
Yeah.
But you don't have that when you're only 17 and you move away to a different
No.
town in a city,
No.
like on your own. Do you know what I
You
mean?
don't. You just think it's natural to go crazy.
Like
Um,
I remember thinking like, bear in mind I was tomboy with all the boys till like 17, and then I went up to Dundee, which is like 4 hours away from here, and been like, "Wah, this is amazing. Like all this freedom, like we're in the middle of nowhere.
mm,
All that freedom, and then being catapulted into like the Scotland setup. Whereas I was still literally partying, which like, I mean, it's hard because you try and think yourself as an adult, you wrestle with, oh, I maybe shouldn't have done that, or maybe I should have took that opportunity. That's why now, as an adult, I don't miss any opportunity now,
yeah.
and I make sure I go for it because I have learned the residue that you really have, really probably from not doing your best at the time.
So that leads me on to a quite a good question here. So cold water has obviously become a practice, as we mentioned. It's a
Yeah.
good, it's a grounding thing. It's
Yeah.
also good for the noise. Both a practice and a tool in your life. From your lived experience, what role has cold exposure played in your healing, physically, mentally, and emotionally, since cancer treatment? But more importantly, not just because of the cancer, because that's not the
Yeah.
defining thing about you.
Yeah.
In general, all of those things. How has that helped you just try and blank out all of those things and get past that obstacles and that
Well,
self
I think,
sabotage?
yeah, I think actually it didn't block out things. I think when I first started doing it, in the moments of clarity without the brain noise, I was very, very becoming very aware of actually there's stuff in my life and in my past and
Mm,
that I haven't dealt with. And I was, because I wasn't getting the constant like bombardment in my brain,
mm,
I was like, I always say I felt I needed to feel it to heal. And that's what I kept on saying it initially. Like I felt like honestly, because I had no brain noise and I was meeting like-minded individuals that were trying to sort their well-being and maybe their mental health and things out, you meet people and you automatically start naturally chatting about things. And I think because I wasn't in fight or flight mode at that point in the
mm,
water, I started processing stuff that I had never dealt with. Because if, like I say to people in the wellness days that I run, if you talk about something and you're discussing something and it still upsets you or it makes you angry or frustrated, you haven't dealt with it.
yeah,
So there was
yeah,
loads of things that I had masked, like constantly, and then it really, really came into fruition when I had my own children, and when I got married because I was a runner for my whole life. I just used to take off to Australia, or I would go away like randomly. I would be dating someone, then I'd be like, no, this is not for me. So I think eventually I thought, well, why have I been like that? Like you start just putting things together when
mm,
you're in moments of clarity, and then when you speak to people that are going through their hardships, something just starts ticking in your own brain, thinking, oh, that's me actually. That's what I'm like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You get
And
that a lot,
then
don't you?
the insight comes sometimes from speaking to other people. And then I thought, maybe I'm just being paranoid. So then when I went and did the ADHD assessment, like you go naturally to your childhood and your teenage years, and like, and I've always been very clear that my mum and my stepdad have gave us a great upbringing. However, the stuff about my dad leaving, and then like I had
Mm.
3 different guys that basically said they were my dad and brought me up as their daughter, which is a whole different story. It's like something out of a film, but that doesn't leave you unscathed,
No, it
because
doesn't.
actually it
No.
doesn't, because I had 3 men, but actually I don't actually call any of them dad.
Yes.
So stuff like that. And I started thinking, like that is quite tough for you, Susie, actually. And see, having the permission from other people that were like minded to
Mm.
actually say, no, actually, that is really, really quite tough for you. And I think as well, I lost a really, really dear friend, unfortunately, to suicide in 2018. And it absolutely put me on my arse, for other words. And I remember thinking at the time, like, that's horrendous. And really, really, really thinking about my own mental health after that. Because she was such a bubbly girl and very like me. Then I thought, like, it's normal for obviously people to treat, like, to really, really struggle and not mention it. And not even, like, no one's aware of it. We didn't have a clue that my friend was struggling the way she was. And I think from that moment on, I really, really was aware that there was something quite, I don't know, I always say a miss, but I don't think it was a miss. I just knew that there was something quite different. Like, I didn't ever feel at peace. I was constantly like,
Yeah.
so to get the
Like a coiled
ADHD,
spring.
absolutely, like a Duracell bunny. Like, that's what my husband calls me. He calls me Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
And he
Just
says, like, I'm like,
constantly.
the Tasmanian, like, I'm exhausted just watching you. But if you have that brain, you can't just unchange it. Like, that's me.
No, and well, that's when, because I'm pretty driven, although I've been a little bit lazy since I've moved to Scotland, because I've sort of gone, I'm in countryside now, I don't have to run at 100 miles an hour, because living in a city, doing a
Yeah.
legal job, and then trying to obviously live life because I've just got over cancer and you're doing all the things that I was doing at the time. I was a governor of a trust, of an NHS
Uh-huh.
trust
Yeah.
for a bit. I was being an artist, I was marathon running, all of those things. Um,
Everything at the same time.
yeah, you just do everything. You're like, just do everything. I'll say yes to everything as long as it's not
I maybe
criminal.
recognise that a bit.
Yeah. But I moved here and then I thought, I quite like the silence and the peace and the
Yeah.
slow. So, when do you say enough is enough for you as a person?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? And this is something I've only just really realised in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think we're having the diagnosis, obviously, and finding out that this had cancer inside it. I think being off work for the 5 months without a baby to look after, and really, really, really soul searching, because you're on your own all day. I think I've finally came out of that fight or flight response. I don't think I've ever been that calm and collected in my whole 37 years. And I think it's because I've mindfully had to body check myself and sort my stuff out to get through this, because my children don't know. So I was having to be like, what is going to make me safe and well the now to get me through whatever I've got coming? And I think because I was really doing mindfulness and not having any stress, I was keeping it a very kind of calm, collected kind of atmosphere.
Mm.
I think for the first time in my life, I came off that fight or flight response.
It's strange that you should. Well, it's not strange. For years before I got my cancer, it's a very similar thing. For years before I got the cancer diagnosis, I was psychosomatic because of my
Right.
background, and I was
Yes.
abused as a boy as
Uh-huh.
well. Um, you sort of go, my head was a mess for years.
Like just,
Yeah.
just all the time.
Just all the time. And obviously I didn't know then I was autistic.
Uh-huh.
And that, had I known then, it would probably been
Uh-huh.
easier to sort of pull it apart and go, right, let's deal with
Yes.
the autism and let's deal with the sexual abuse thing separately.
Yes. As soon
But
as you know, you know.
yeah,
Do you know what I
you
mean?
do.
Isn't it?
And I sort of had somatization disorder, I think they called it then, or health
Yes.
anxiety disorder, as they called it.
Yeah.
And I was always seeking psychological calm through physical problems. And then I got the
Yeah.
cancer diagnosis, and you're just like,
And it
it's
doesn't matter,
almost
does
like
it?
a relief.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like you're saying, you had this relief where you're just like, right,
Uh-huh.
so that constant fight or flight, which does keep the old adrenaline running
Yeah.
constantly,
There's
and there's
also
no
stress and
cortisol.
the cortisol as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and you need, obviously, to come down from that. You can't be constantly fighting or flighting all the time.
No.
So I think there is definite, when you get something terrible to you, a diagnosis such as cancer of wherever it is, it does ground you. And then a
It
lot of people
does.
don't understand that, and
No.
because they've not been through cancer themselves. They may know
No.
people, but unless you've been through it, you can't really understand how it's quite a pivotal moment in somebody's
It is.
life,
Yeah,
and it sounds like it
it's
was
a
that for you.
massive life event. I always say, like, I've spoke to a couple of girls about that I'm quite friendly with, and they said, like, you seem, which is weird, they're like, you just seem so much calmer. And I think it's like, there's nothing worse that can happen
Yeah,
from this. Like, I mean, I think people that have losses and massive losses, like, that is my biggest nightmare. A loss of, like, any of my family, my husband, my children, anything happening to them is my biggest fear. But there's nothing as bad as somebody speaking to you in a room that you basically have got cancer. Like, everyone comes, and no matter what anyone says, in that moment, everything comes in front of you like, oh my God, I'm not going to see them get married. I'm not going to be there for my kids. Like, you think at that point, and you'll be the same, no matter what stage they give you at the point, but your whole life flashes right in front of you at like rapid fire. And then you've got to process it. And then you get people saying stuff like, oh, well, I'm really sorry to hear about your cancer, but that's a good cancer that you've got, and like the survival rate. And you think, you've just heard this diagnosis, right? You've just heard that the cancer has been found somewhere in your body, but everyone's trying to minimize it, and you're like, I'm trying to process this, and you are literally telling me that, oh, you're fine though.
yeah,
Which, if you go back to your already existing stuff, like that, like bad things happen, or you're never going to be enough.
yeah,
Like, that was a really, really strange month to be in, that mindset.
yeah,
But then you get, what is it, what, 3 months later, and then, like, I'm like, you're all fine. You're going to be fine, and we're not too worried about this. You don't need treatment,
yeah,
and we're just going to keep an eye on it for the next
yeah,
couple of years and do active surveillance. And then you're like, right, okay, so like, we're not in a situation that's going to be lifelong or anything. It's a really strange situation because you think the worst, and everyone who gets told they're cancer automatically think they're worse, because cancer is a massive lifelong and life event. Like, it's not just, oh, it's away now and you never think about it. People that have cancer and have got over cancer, you've got the risk then of it coming back, and that never leaves you.
no, it doesn't. And going through it myself,
Yeah.
again, you do sort of. I'm waiting now for staging
Yes.
results to see how bad it is, and despite the fact that you've gone through it,
Mhm.
you do sort of. And people do minimise. I'm just going to touch on the
Yeah,
minimisation thing
they
because
do.
I've dealt with this a lot. And I
Uh-huh.
remember a particular conversation about minimising. It's a psychological thing. I read a lot about it.
It's
And
about them
people,
though.
it's
It's
about
about
them. It's
them.
not about
Mhm.
you. They don't
Yeah.
want to then have to deal with something that's quite traumatic, so they try to sort of minimise it. And I remember a conversation in workplace, and I'd got a call on my phone, and
Hmm.
I was waiting for calls from after I'd had the biopsy done.
Yes.
And the call came through, so I went and rung them back, and they said, "Can you come in tomorrow?" So I knew, oh God, it's the cancer. I knew
Yeah.
because they don't ring you and tell you to come in like within 2 days of the
No,
biopsy if it's good news.
if
They'll
it's
just
good,
send you a
yeah.
letter.
Uh-huh.
And I
Well, I
said to
got
her,
I got that as well, and I got like, oh, it was 6 weeks from when I had my surgery to the biopsy, and people were like, oh, you're high and dry, everything's absolutely fine. And then on the 6 week mark, I thought, oh, it's fine. I went myself. I went myself the day I found out I had cancer, because we all thought it was all high and dry,
mm,
and to just sit in that room and them tell you, and I was on my own, and I was just kind of like, I remember going straight out and speaking to a friend. I think a friend. I'm a GP in my family, and being like, I don't know what just happened.
mm.
Like, don't know what they've said. Like, a total trauma response, and like, even at that point, like, I still don't even really know what they said to me in that room that day. Still don't
I
remember
think,
it.
well, I'm very practical, so when I got to see my team leader and said, "Look, I'm gonna have to," I couldn't find my team leader. I went and found another one. I said, "I'm gonna have to sort of have tomorrow off. I've got this
Yeah,
news." Oh, it's all right. You'll be fine. I said, "No, it's not."
I
I worked in
know.
medicine at the time. We all worked in
I
medicine. We
know.
worked in a medical company, and I said, "It's not." Because they don't call you and ask you to come within 2 days of the biopsy
No,
if it's good news. They'll just send you a letter and
no.
say, "Make an outpatient appointment." And I went with my fiance at the my partner who were later married and divorced, but we went together, and
Uh-huh.
I was considering the fact that I've mentioned the background in health anxiety, and
Yeah,
people have said to me, "God, if he gets," I'd heard people sort of, oh, they said to me, if he gets cancer diagnosis, he's not going to cope. It's going to be a
oh,
nightmare.
I know
And
that's such a
it
rubbish
just
thing to say.
went, and I turned into this super sort of, right, okay, what do we do? I need to, who do I speak to? Where do I read? What do I look at? I need,
Yeah,
because my
fix it.
autism, Well,
Fix it.
my autism is I'm a Johnny Five, if you remember Short Circuit.
Yes,
I
yes,
need
yes.
knowledge. And if I don't
Aye.
get knowledge, I
You're
freak.
armed with that. You're armed with that knowledge. You need that.
Yeah. And then that
And
helps.
yeah, and the thing is as well, like, see, if anybody listens to this podcast, right, and the people that do listen to it, never, ever, ever tell somebody that's literally just been told they have cancer that it's going to be okay. It's the most offensive thing that
Yeah.
you can say to someone who is currently dealing with something that's massive. And
True.
that is one thing I say to anyone, like, do not tell somebody, even if you're being nurturing and try to be kind, do not try and minimise it by saying, oh, you'll be fine. Do you know what? It's 99% success rate of survival. Oh, thanks, Jackie or Karen, whatever your name is. Like, that makes me feel so much better. Like, that's one thing that I want to get across from that.
No, I think that's 100%. So many people said to me after the cancer diagnosis, "You'll be fine. It'll be all
Hmm.
right. Don't worry about it. As long as, at least it's not this type of cancer, lung
I
cancer or something." It's
know.
like it's like it's not. I've just been told that there's
Yeah.
something that could kill me, and
Hmm.
it's inside my body at that moment in time. And that's a good tip. It is difficult. I get that because especially loved
Yeah.
ones, people who are really close to you, they just
Hmm.
want to make you feel better about yourself.
I know. I know.
But
As well,
sometimes
what
saying
I think
nothing
is
is
quite
better than saying
difficult.
something.
I know, and sometimes like, and also don't just go into denial and act like it's not happening, because I've had that a few times. People are just like, don't even mention it to you, and you're thinking, this is very odd. But you know, as well, like people that have got kind of adverse experiences, things like ADHD and autism that can give you quite high levels of cortisol and stress, like we are twice as likely to end up with cancerous kind of bodies in our body as well. So I think it's very, very good to get focused on mindfulness and wellness as early
Yeah,
as you can,
no, no,
and
true.
get counselling and support as early as you can, because chronic stress and chronic mental health issues can manifest into kind of illnesses and chronic health problems and things like that.
Yeah,
So I think to get really healthy and to tell young people as well, like it's fine to struggle, but don't don't try and mask and hide it now, because you really don't need to nowadays.
yeah,
There's enough support now out there.
there is, and I totally agree with that. It's stress. I gave up a very well-paid legal job when I moved
Hmm.
here, to much
Yeah.
to most people's like disgust and horror. Like, what are you doing? And I ended up
I
making
think you've
cheese for
lost your
the
mind.
ethical dairy. I became a
They
cheesemaker for
think
a
you've
year in the
lost your
Queen of
mind.
Galloway. Yeah, but I knew the stress of working 7 days a
Hmm.
week, 10-hour,
Hmm.
11-hour days. It wasn't
Yeah.
going to do the body any good. And if I wanted to beat prostate cancer, because I knew by that
Yeah.
point it were back. So I only had 3 years in the clear, and then I
Yeah.
was already out of remission.
It's hard as well, because I think like people like you and I who have got the backgrounds, right? I think we make really, really good kind of social workers or customer or not or client facing jobs that people who are going through similar stuff that we have. I think we should be in the jobs that we're in. But actually sometimes going into those jobs, if you've already got your existing trauma and losses and stuff, they actually can affect your life. You get vicarious trauma because you've already got the trauma that's in your
Yeah,
existing
true.
background.
Yeah.
But we're the best people for that job because we know how it feels. We can relate.
Yeah.
And we can
Oh
say, like,
no,
I
we've got the
know.
lived experience, haven't we? And
Yeah.
I did see. I worked for Citizens Advice Bureau for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Front line, dealing with vulnerable people, homelessness, addictions, and all those things. And obviously, the medical part was still a
Yeah.
big thing, dealing with doctors and their struggles because they struggle, nurses and doctors and stuff.
Absolutely.
Um, but you just they're naturally the types of people that are drawn to those types of roles
Yeah.
because of your lived experience. But you're ultimately naturally the one that's going to suffer the
Yeah.
most out of that contractual exchange of dealing with
Yeah.
clients because you soak up their emotions and distress. So
Yeah.
the fine line. So that's sort of. I'm going to ask you a question then,
Hmm.
because you are a social worker, as we
Yes.
established, and
Hmm.
you're working for the Justice project, which is obviously dealing with ex-offenders.
Yes.
But doing what you do outside of that work notoriously takes a little bit of selfishness. Not that you're a selfish person, but you obviously have to have that ability
Yeah.
to go, right, well, I'm going to be a rugby player, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be an
Yes.
artist. You've got to have some sort of internal. Um, how has your own brush with obviously your autism and your cancer changed the way you show up for others in pain or in crisis? Does that make it easier for you or harder? Do you sometimes look at that thinking, God, just I mean, I know I sometimes used to say, and I haven't worked for CAB for ages, so I can say this. I used to say to some clients in my own head, "Oh, for God's sake, man, just get on with it."
Yeah, I don't know, I think I'm from a long list of women who are very empathetic, but they're very strong. So my granny, my mum, my sister, probably my great granny on both sides, we're all from a bloodline of really, really strong, opinionated females. Even though I've struggled, I've always been able to say, look, like I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. So when people are going through struggles, what I use is kind of my empathy, but I wouldn't say I was an emotional rescuer. And I think because I know that that's them, I'm able to distinguish that that's going on with them and it's not me. This is not happening to me. But I used to be quite bad for taking things on. That's why I left children and families, because I had the premature baby and I had a few quite significant losses and I could not detach the same. Like I was leaving houses and leaving homes that I thought, I cannot do this anymore. Like I knew that that was in my threshold, like I was there.
Mm.
So I needed a change because as well in justice social work, you're dealing with adults, you're not dealing with children who
Mm.
need help to be advocated, like they need advocates for them, whereas adults do need that as well, but they ultimately, if as long as they're like of capacity and sound mind, they have all got the choice as well. And I find that really, really helps with the boundaries and not bringing work life into your home life, because at the end of the day you're trying to help people, but you can only help people so much, whereas with children you felt the responsibility for that. And I knew that I had got to the point before I knew obviously anything about the ADHD side of
Yeah.
things. I knew the traumas were starting to all build up
Yeah.
and becoming to a peak. And that's how I ended up obviously with the PTSD symptoms. The traumas that I'd all endured, the losses
Mm.
were all compounding at a rate of knots that meant that I could no longer do that job any longer. I wasn't able to be absolutely 100% with my decision making after the event. I was fine at the time, but then I would
Mm.
ruminate about it all the time and I couldn't detach.
That's a typical autistic
Yeah,
trait, is the
yeah,
rumination. I ruminate for years, many decades.
yeah,
In fact, I can go back over those things. And again, you've got to. There is almost this self. So the point of the question is, you've got to self protect. We all have to self
yeah,
protect, but we're not very good at it when you do have trauma from
yeah,
childhood,
yeah,
for whatever, and
yeah,
ultimately autistic. You just don't. You're
yeah.
not great at boundaries, are you? So you've
No,
actually got an ability to
yeah,
set boundaries and stick to them because you've piled through some stuff over the last few
absolutely.
years.
And as well, like quite often people are like, "Oh my God, like you're so busy, like that would drive me mad." And I'm like, I need to be that busy to manage myself to be safe and well. So people always say to me, "Oh my goodness, you make me absolutely exhausted." And I just say quite often, like, you have got no idea why I do the things I do, but the judgment of you doing it does not help me. I have to do these things to now allow me to be one, a mum, to allow me to be able to work because I've always worked, and to allow me to be safe, healthy, fit, and well. Like these are all different parts that I've learned along the way, probably with my sporting background, that everything's a progress. Like you do things, your discipline and your motivation comes into play when you're struggling. But if you keep doing them and you do it every day, that's
Mm.
enough for you to get by. So I've used it all the time, the discipline and doing stuff. I mean, sometimes Sunday I was absolutely exhausted and I've got myself like a 10,000 step a day challenge that I do, and I've done it for about 10 years. And I was sitting at like 8,000. I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered going. And then my hubby was like, you are going to be a nightmare if you don't hit that target. Like that's just not
Yeah.
negotiable for you. You'll be absolutely crab it.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, no, I don't know if I can be bothered. And then I went out in the dark because I was like, at one point I was just like, no, I need to go and do my steps. And like these kind of things that I've got set up are my scaffolding that keep me well.
I think it's
But
difficult, isn't it? Though we do. I mean, I know people, and one of them, my niece. My niece, she's a teacher. Well, she was a teacher recently, but she's an ex-football player, so
right.
very similar to you.
Yeah.
She was very tomboy at
hmm
school, picked
hmm
on by the other girls, the sort of the Instagram girls, as they
Yeah.
call them, but
Yeah.
loved the camaraderie of the sports team with the football girls and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but really struggled. But she's also got to keep herself busy because her mum's very similar to that. Now, I went through years of that, busy, busy, busy.
Mhm.
But the scaffolding
Yes.
I have is I've had to teach myself to just go, I'm doing note today.
I know, and I'm at that point. So it's interesting that you've just mentioned that, because obviously I've been off sick probably since end of October. No, sorry, September. And I got loads of books bought for me, because people who know me well know that I don't really sit down, and they know that I'm always like firefighting, as I say. And I got loads of books, and do you know, I challenged myself at one point to try and read 10 pages a day. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'm like, you all want me to rest and be really mindful and sit there, and I was literally like, oh,
But that's
literally
your
got bored.
scaffolding, as you say. That's yeah. People see the thing is, I know people in my life that say you've got to be busy all the time, and that like when I separated from my husband, which was an
Uh-huh.
extraordinarily traumatic period for
Absolutely.
for both of us. We were both
Yeah.
just broken. But
Yeah.
people go, "Oh, you got to get up and get out and do stuff." It's like, no. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit in house
Yeah.
for 3 weeks. I'm going to watch Friends on repeat on Channel 5.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. And that helped.
I know, and it was funny because actually, eventually, so I tried the reading didn't work, but then I did get a little bit into kind of listening to podcasts at the same time as
Mm,
doing something. But interestingly enough, week 3 or 4, I started feeling a bit more of a sense of calm. So I was obviously then 20 days into the cold water every day as well,
yeah.
which, if you do your research, cold water therapy, if you've got ADHD, autism, or any adverse experience, it actually turns your amygdala off. So your amygdala that you've got, that's your thought processing,
Yeah.
because you're going in cold water and doing a pain response and it's fight or flight,
Mm,
that's why it works, because you're actually like, you're resetting your mind to not worry and panic and be anxious and blah, blah, blah. So because I was doing it every day, I was getting little lulls of half an hour to an hour, which I maybe could listen to a podcast or I could read.
mm-hmm.
And then I came across brown noise. So brown noise is a game changer if you need to know about that. So basically, you put brown noise in the background and you can do things that you struggle to focus on.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Yes.
do all this stuff, but all this is stuff that people don't see, and it's behind the scenes. But what I guess I want to say is, just because you see somebody what their cover is, you don't have a clue what's going on in the chapters and
No.
what's going
No.
on in behind the scenes.
You don't. And ultimately, just because you see you, for example, doing what you're doing, and
Uh huh.
people say to me, "Oh, I couldn't do what you do," and especially when
Yeah.
you're dealing with your health problem, it
Uh
doesn't mean
huh.
to say that you actually have to do what everybody else is doing to
No.
get by. If you
No.
obviously try to avoid toxic behaviour to
Yes.
get through, because it's not great,
Yes.
and you never win that battle ever. But you don't have to go swimming every day. You don't have to run a
No.
marathon. You don't have to
No.
read a book a day. You just do
No.
what it is that's safe,
Yes.
non-toxic,
Yeah.
and gets
And
you
what for
through,
you?
and works. Gives you
Yes.
clarity, silence, or just a nice overwhelming sense of. Because when I come out of really cold water,
Yeah.
you might get this, but I don't know because you're doing it every day. But I know when I come out of water, there's about an hour afterwards when I just want to sleep.
No, I don't get that at all, and I honestly, I feel like I'm like the only person that doesn't really get like that. But I don't get that at all, and I think it's because the brain noise is that like shut off that I can then focus on things that I then want to try and do. Like I'll maybe go walk or to the gym or do some tidy up in the house, because normally when I'm trying to do these things, I'm like I try and hoover, empty cupboards, make tea, make bread, and do everything at the exact same time. So when I get the clarity of not having that brain noise, I really am motivated after my swims, and I can go and do stuff, and I can go and get stuff done that I wouldn't normally do quite as easy.
Ah, well, I suppose that's it. Just then that ties in. Certain medicine works in a certain way for certain
Yeah.
people.
Aha.
Swimming for
100%.
you gets you that buzz to get things done. Swimming
Yeah.
for me, because it does shut down that amygdala system, and I think it's the
Yeah.
asympathetic nervous
Yes.
system.
That's
And
it.
once that shuts down, and that fight or flight that we're
Hmm.
constantly having to deal with in the modern world that we live in, that's shut down for ages with me.
Yeah, does
And
it?
I can shut that down now. I don't know, that's just age as well.
Right.
And ultimately coming to terms with the fact that I now know why I'm like that. I never knew.
Yes.
I thought it was because of the abuse. And now it's
Yes.
like, oh no, it's because of the autism. So it helps me, and I could, I mean, I don't, but I could.
Hmm.
Because I come out
And
and think, oh,
that's a massive point that you're saying, because see, anything that we've talked about today, like none of this is an excuse for any of the way we are. Like I am very accountable, but it is a reason from
yes,
stuff. Like you need to know, I think in life, you need to know why you're the way they are. the reason why you're like that, but what are you going to do about it, or what are you going to put in place to make sure that it makes you have a happy life? And that's what I say in the wellbeing days. Like, without knowing your vulnerabilities, how do you work to your strengths? Like, I
That
say that
is
all the
so
time.
true. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is so true. I've had that from people who say, "Why do you want to find out that you're autistic? You want a label, don't you? You want a medicine?" No,
No,
I don't want a label, and I don't want
nah.
medicine. If I'm going to take medicine for it, I'll take natural stuff. I don't need prescribed
Yeah.
drugs.
And I'm the same. I don't, not, I'm against medicine or medicine or like people taking meds, but for me, that doesn't tie in with the sports background and try
Yeah,
to help myself. I'm not coming over everything I've overcome to then dull my personality down with any medication. That's just a
yeah,
personal preference.
yeah.
But
I'm
I
very
know
much.
some people need to.